The deep ocean is an extreme environment. We call it evolution, but really it's the time and our pollution and the plastic and the noise from the ships, the noise from the drilling, that made it impossible to survive the ocean as it was millions of years ago. That made it a necessity for creatures to adapt so they don't go extinct. But here's my controversial theory. We are not the main reason why the ocean has adapted, because that's what you see everywhere, isn't it? That ocean creatures look more and more creepy the deeper you go, because they were forced to evolve in the strangest ways to survive our impact. But what if that's not it? What if our impact is just a small piece in the big puzzle? Because here's what the AI-generated scripts of the videos you've watched won't tell you. There are several other factors involved in ocean evolution beyond human interference, beyond us. So the question that rises is, why do we perceive ocean creatures more creepy the deeper we look into prehistory? To answer, I have to divide this video in two halves. First, I'll talk very briefly about how prehistoric animals used to look back in time. I want you to have a clear picture of the ancestors because this will help you identify how much they adapted to survive the deep ocean we know today. And then second, I'll elaborate my theory about why they were this way before and why the way they changed now is not just a consequence of our actions. Let's move backwards down the timeline, and you'll see clearly how the deeper we look, the more unfamiliar faces we'll meet. Today, we have the great white shark. That's a familiar face, correct? It's the apex predator of today's seas, it has a bulky body and 300 teeth. But it's just the modern form of a shark design. Before this, like over 20 million years ago, the megalodon was around. This was the earlier species of shark. It was gigantic, and just to give you an idea, it weighed as much as 30 large great white sharks as we know them today. It went extinct some 2.5 million years ago, but it's the largest predatory shark ever known. Correct me if I'm wrong. So what could possibly be this? What was there before the megalodon? Mosasaurus. About 80 million years ago, the ocean was dominated by a massive reptile with conical and sharp teeth and the tail, guess, of a shark. It descended from land lizards that returned to the ocean and was one of the most dangerous marine carnivores during the age of dinosaurs. Shall we look even further back? What was there before the dinosaurs? Well, for one, there was the Dunkleosteus. In the late Devonian, over 360 million years ago, this was one of the most powerful jawed fish ever. It possessed self-sharpening jaw blades and could bite with great force, almost like a guillotine. And also, its skull alone was nearly 1 meter long to give you a clue of how massive it was. But then, Dunkleosteus had an ancestor of its own too, over 500 million years ago. Anomalocaris was one of the largest animals of the Cambrian and thought to be one of the earliest examples of an apex predator. I can't say this resembled a shark. This was more like a giant shrimp with a somewhat flexible exoskeleton, but I can say this was the earliest complex predator in the ocean. What has changed today? Well, now, enormous creatures, giant predators are still there in the deep seas. But most wear different faces. All their ancestors are extinct, and they had to find new ways to survive. They no longer rely just on their massive dimensions, force, and speed. Their bodies are different, their hunting strategies are different. Today's deep-sea predators have giant eyes to see even the tiniest amounts of light in the darkness. They have bioluminescence to attract prey and camouflage. They impale prey with their teeth, shoot their jaws forward to grab it, or lure it with glowing bait as hunting strategies. Between how sea animals look now and how history depicts them in ancient times, there are significant differences. And this is where we're getting to the meat of this video. Because my theory is, they would have changed anyway. It's natural and not because there's pollution, or noise, or global warming or whatever. I think our prehistoric giants would have gotten smaller anyway. Plus, the ways they adapted are in fact not new. They had many of these abilities back in ancient times too, now they're just more obvious. The giant eyes, yes? We know the barrel-eye fish has evolved extremely large eyes to see through deep-sea darkness, but guess what? Prehistory had the Ophthalmosaurus. It had some of the largest eyes of any animal ever alive, which allowed it to dive after prey at night in prehistoric oceans. So while the adaptation is real, it is not new. It has been around before our human interference. Then, the bioluminescence. Now we have the anglerfish that uses a glowing lure to attract prey towards its jaws. But about 165 million years ago, there was the Vampiranosa rhodanica, an ancient relative of modern vampire squid. Fossil evidence shows it had anatomical structures similar to modern bioluminescent cephalopods, so this ability was there already too. See where I'm going? These specialized adaptations, as we call them, are in fact older than a few million years and related to more than human impact. Time has come to address and resolve my early question. Why do we perceive ocean creatures more creepy the deeper we look into prehistory? If it's not us, who or what is disturbing the ocean? Why were ancient giants replaced by smaller creatures? Here's my 2 cents. Number 1, in some prehistoric periods, oceans had higher levels of oxygen, and this allowed animals to grow larger. Moving forward to our times, as oxygen dropped, ecosystems favored smaller and slower organisms. Number 2, although ancient oceans were filled with giants, the oceans went through multiple extinction events. The late Devonian mass extinction, when about 40% of marine species went extinct. The end Devonian mass extinction 13 million years later, and then the Permian-Triassic extinction event, or the Great Dying, when over 80% of marine species went extinct. Each event wiped out huge marine ecosystems, including many giant predators. Afterwards, different species and often smaller animals tended to develop. And number 3, the fossil bias. Since soft-bodied organisms leave no fossils, we mostly find fossils of large, hard-bodied animals of the deep sea. That doesn't mean the seas only hosted giants back then, it's only our picture of prehistoric oceans that may be skewed toward the more dramatic and weird creatures. Do I make sense? The deeper you go, the more specialized life becomes in the ocean. But also, the deeper you go into fossil record, the more you realize these adaptations have been around for a very, very long time. Prehistory or present, this rule seems to be universal. Everything is always changing.